The space station floated in the quiet dark, far from busy trade routes, far from the eyes of anyone who cared. Inside its metal walls, a single human worked alone. His name was Daniel, a mechanic who repaired ships no one else wanted to touch. For him, life was simple: oil on his hands, tools in his pockets, and long silent nights with only the hum of machines to keep him company. He thought tomorrow would be the same as today, and the day after that would also pass without change. He had no idea the universe had chosen a different path for him. The night began like any other. Daniel sat at his workbench, adjusting the broken gears of an old shuttle engine. He hummed softly to himself, not noticing the stars outside shift with sudden light. A warning alarm rang across the station, sharp and urgent. His hands froze. The alarm meant something was coming in fast. Daniel rushed to the window. In the distance, a small craft streaked through the black sky, glowing as if fire surrounded it. It was broken, spinning out of control. His heart raced as he watched it fall toward the station's landing bay. Sparks and smoke trailed behind it. The control screens flashed red, showing system errors. Daniel shouted to no one, "Hold together. Just hold together." The craft hit the bay floor with a heavy crash, metal bending, steam hissing out. For a moment, silence returned, broken only by the slow echo of cooling metal. Daniel grabbed his tool bag and hurried down the long corridor. He had seen crashes before, but this felt different. Something pulled at him, a strange sense he could not explain. When the heavy doors slid open, he stepped into the landing bay filled with smoke and the smell of burning wires. Through the haze, he saw movement. A figure climbed out of the broken craft, weak and unsteady. Daniel's eyes widened. It was not human. She had skin that glowed faintly blue, as if moonlight rested inside her. Her eyes, large and shining, looked tired but full of emotion. In her arms, she carried something wrapped in silver cloth. Daniel froze. His breath caught in his chest. She staggered forward, holding the bundle close, and then she collapsed to her knees. The cloth shifted, and Daniel saw the small face of a child. An alien child. The mother's voice was soft, trembling. She looked at him with pleading eyes. "Human," she whispered. Her voice was heavy with pain, but also with trust. She stretched her arms forward, offering the child to him. Daniel stepped closer, unsure of what to do. He was just a mechanic, not a savior. But the way she looked at him left no room for hesitation. Carefully, he reached out, and she placed the child in his arms. The small body was warm, lighter than he expected, and the child's skin glowed gently like starlight. He felt the baby's tiny fingers curl around his thumb, and something inside him shifted. The alien mother's breathing grew weaker. She struggled to keep her eyes open, her words barely more than a whisper. "Protect my child." Daniel wanted to ask 100 questions. Who was she? Why give her baby to him, a stranger? What danger was coming? But his voice refused to rise. He only nodded, holding the child closer. Her gaze softened, relief filling her face. She tried to say more, but the words faded into silence. She closed her eyes, her head bowing gently as if she had given the last of her strength. Daniel stood frozen in the landing bay, the baby now resting against his chest, its tiny breath warm and steady. His thoughts raced, but his body felt heavy, unable to move. The alarms had stopped. The station was quiet again, yet nothing was the same anymore. He looked down at the child. The glow round its skin seemed to pulse, faint but steady, like a heartbeat made of light. Daniel felt the weight of the moment. A dying mother had chosen him, out of all beings, to carry her child's future. The silence stretched, but inside his mind, questions shouted louder than alarms. Why him? Why now? What was this child's secret? And who or what was she running from? The baby made a soft sound, almost like a sigh, and its tiny hand clung tighter to his shirt. Daniel's heart softened. For reasons he could not explain, he felt a bond forming already. He whispered softly, though he knew the child could not understand. "Don't worry, I've got you." But even as he spoke, he sensed this was only the beginning. Something was out there in the dark, something that had chased the mother to her final moments. And now, holding this child in his arms, Daniel knew he was no longer just a mechanic fixing broken ships. He was part of something larger, something dangerous, and something that would test every part of who he was. The landing bay lights flickered, shadows shifting along the walls. Daniel looked toward the broken craft. Its systems were dead, yet the silence around it felt alive, as if secrets still hid within its frame. He tightened his grip on the child. His world had changed in a single moment, and nothing would ever be ordinary again. Daniel stood in the landing bay, the silence pressing in around him. The small alien child rested against his chest, glowing softly in the dim light. He could still feel the weight of the mother's hands as she had passed the baby into his arms, as if her final strength had been poured into that single action. He didn't move for a long while, unsure what to do, his heart caught between fear and wonder. Then, faintly, he heard her voice again. At first, he thought it was an echo inside his memory, but when he turned, he saw the mother stir weakly on the floor. Her eyes were barely open, glowing like fading lanterns. Her lips trembled, struggling to form words. Daniel quickly lowered himself beside her, careful not to jostle the child. He wanted to help, though he had no medicine, no training, no way to heal what was beyond his reach. All he could do was listen. She looked at him, her gaze filled with a mixture of sorrow and determination. Her voice was fragile, but every word carried meaning. "Human, you must listen. This child is more than you know." She paused, her breath catching, as if each word cost her strength. Daniel leaned closer, his pulse loud in his ears. He wanted to ask what she meant, but something inside told him not to interrupt. She continued, though her voice wavered. "They will come. They will search. You must not let them take my baby." Her hand reached out, trembling, and touched the child's blanket. For a moment, Daniel saw the faint shimmer of strange markings stitched into the fabric, symbols that glowed when her fingers brushed them. He looked at the baby again, noticing details he had missed before. The child's skin gave off a gentle light, not just from its surface, but from deep within, as if a star lived inside. The baby blinked up at him, its eyes reflecting starlight in a way no human eyes ever could. Daniel's throat felt dry. He whispered, almost to himself, "Why me? I'm no one. I just fix ships." Her gaze did not waver. "Because you are human, and that is enough." The words struck him deeply. He did not understand them, yet they held a weight that filled the air. She coughed softly, and her hand slipped back to her chest. Daniel noticed her strength fading, her breath shallow. She seemed to gather what little life remained in her body, as if she had saved her last energy for this very moment. Her lips formed a sound, quiet and sharp, a word Daniel had never heard before. It echoed strangely in the air, almost vibrating against the metal walls of the station. She repeated it once, slower, pressing the sound into his memory. Then she leaned closer, whispering it directly into his ear. Daniel shivered. The word felt alive, heavy with meaning he couldn't understand yet. It settled in his mind like a secret waiting for its time. He nodded, even though he didn't fully grasp what she had given him. "I'll protect the child," he said softly, his voice steadier than he expected. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. For a brief second, her eyes shone with peace, as if his promise was enough to lift a burden she had carried for too long. Daniel wanted to hold onto that moment, but reality pressed in again. The alarms had gone silent, yet the station felt tense, as if listening for something beyond its walls. He thought of her warning, "They will come." Whoever they were, he felt certain she was right. The baby shifted in his arms, letting out a soft sound that seemed almost like a sigh. Daniel rocked gently, surprised at how natural it felt, even though he had never held a child before. He looked down and whispered, "I don't know what you are, little one, but I'll keep you safe." The mother closed her eyes once more, her breathing slow but not yet gone. Daniel realized she was caught between this world and the next, her spirit held back only by the need to make sure her child was safe. He stayed by her side, waiting, giving her the silent respect of a listener. Minutes passed like hours. Daniel's thoughts swirled questions he couldn't answer. Why had she chosen him? What danger could a child bring? What was the meaning of the glowing marks and the words she had entrusted to him? The station's lights flickered, and the hum of the engines changed in tone, almost like a sigh. Daniel glanced toward the control panel, unease rising. Perhaps the crash had shaken the systems. Or perhaps it was something else. He carried the baby carefully to his workbench, wrapping the cloth more tightly round the small form. The glow dimmed slightly, making the child look as if it had drifted into peaceful sleep. For a moment, Daniel simply watched, the sight strangely calming, even with fear pressing at the edges of his mind. Behind him, the mother whispered one last time, her voice so faint it was nearly lost in the air. "Promise me. Promise you will not let the light fade." Daniel turned sharply, but by the time he reached her side, her hand had slipped away from the blanket. Her chest rose shallowly, then rested still. She was silent again, but this time the silence felt final. He stayed kneeling beside her, holding the child close, feeling the full weight of her trust settle onto his shoulders. He had promised her. Now, no matter who came, no matter what dangers waited outside the station, he could not turn away. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, steadying himself. He was only a mechanic, but he had been chosen. And the universe, whether he liked it or not, had just changed his life forever. Daniel sat in the silence of the bay, the child's soft breathing steady against his chest. The glow from the blanket faintly lit the edges of his work suit, casting gentle light over the metal floor. He could still feel the mother's last words echoing inside his head. "Promise me." He had spoken the promise, but now the weight of it pressed on him like a mountain. He rose slowly, careful not to disturb the child, and glanced back at the still form of the mother. A sadness filled him, sharp and heavy, but he also felt a strange strength. She had trusted him, a man who lived in shadows fixing broken machines, to carry something more precious than anything he had ever known. That trust was now his responsibility, and it left him both afraid and strangely determined. Daniel carried the baby through the narrow corridor that led to his workshop. The air smelled of grease and hot metal, but it was familiar, and the familiarity calmed him. He laid the child gently on a soft cloth he used for polishing tools, tucking the glowing blanket around its small frame. The baby shifted and let out a soft coo, almost like a melody, before falling quiet again. Daniel sat at his workbench, staring at the little one. His eyes drifted to the strange symbols on the blanket. They were not ordinary marks. They pulsed faintly, like hidden stars blinking in a secret code. He traced one with his finger, careful not to press too hard. As he did, the sound of a whisper filled the air. He froze, glancing around the empty workshop. No one was there, yet the sound remained. It was not loud, but it was clear words in a language he could not understand. The whisper seemed to come directly from the blanket itself. He leaned closer, listening, until the sound faded into silence. His heart raced. He whispered to himself, "What are you, little one?" The child stirred, eyes blinking open. They glowed faintly, reflecting colors he could not name, like pieces of galaxies caught inside small orbs. For a moment, Daniel forgot to breathe. The baby reached a tiny hand toward him, fingers curling around the air. The touch was so simple, yet it filled him with warmth he had never known. The station hummed quietly, a sound he usually ignored, but now every vibration seemed louder. He stood and moved to the control panel, scanning the readings. At first, nothing looked unusual, but then he noticed faint signals on the outer sensors. Something small and sharp was moving just beyond the edges of the station. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the screen. It was not debris. It was too precise. Daniel returned to the workshop, his mind racing. He remembered the mother's words, "They will come." Whoever they were, he now believed it. The baby, still wrapped in light, was the reason, and he was the only shield between this fragile life and whatever forces searched for it. He sat down again, running his hand over his tired face. "I don't know why she chose me," he whispered, "but I promised her. I can't fail." The baby let out a tiny sound, almost like agreement. Daniel gave a small, tired smile. "Guess it's just us now." He stood and began preparing. He didn't know what was coming, but his instincts told him he couldn't stay in the open. He sealed the workshop doors and dimmed the lights. Then he searched for something that might help him understand the strange word the mother had whispered into his ear. It was sharp in his memory, unlike any sound he had ever known, and it carried weight. He spoke it aloud softly, and to his surprise, the symbols on the blanket glowed brighter. The glow formed patterns, spreading like ripples across the cloth. Daniel leaned in, watching in awe as the marks shifted into a shape and image of stars arranged in a pattern he didn't recognize. It was like a map, but not of any place he had ever repaired ships for. The baby blinked again, eyes reflecting the same pattern. Daniel understood then that the word was not just a word, it was a key to something far larger than himself. He sat back, shaken, but also strangely calm. "All right," he whispered. "If this is where she wanted me, then I'll see it through." The station lights flickered again, longer this time. Daniel tensed, knowing the systems did not usually behave like this unless something interfered from outside. He hurried to check the sensors again. The faint shapes had moved closer. Whoever they were, they had found him. Daniel looked back at the child, who lay quietly under the glowing blanket, unaware of the danger pressing in. The mechanic took a deep breath, steadying himself. He had no weapons, no training for moments like this, but he had a promise. And somehow, that was enough to make him stand taller. He whispered to the child, almost like a vow, "Whatever comes, I'll keep you safe." The glow from the blanket pulsed once, as if in response, filling the room with gentle light. Daniel felt the warmth of it wrap around him like courage, steadying his hands. For the first time in his life, he was no longer just repairing broken ships. He was holding something fragile yet powerful, something that would carry him far beyond the life he thought he knew. The baby's presence changed everything, and as he stood there in the quiet hum of the workshop, Daniel realized he had crossed a line from which he could never return. The mechanic who once lived in silence was now bound to a secret that could shift the fate of stars. The whispers around the alien camp grew louder that evening. Strange glances followed the human wherever he walked, as if the others could see something they couldn't explain. The alien girl, the one who had asked for shelter, stayed close to him, her eyes full of a quiet fear that no one else seemed to notice. He offered her food, and she hesitated before accepting, almost like she was afraid it might be taken away from her at any moment. But when she finally ate, it was with a hunger that revealed just how long she had been surviving on scraps. That night, while the fire crackled, she finally spoke more than a few words. Her voice was soft, almost trembling, but there was a strange strength behind it. She told him she had once been part of something greater, a place where her people lived without fear. But now everything had been taken from her. The others didn't believe her, treating her as though she was a burden. The human, however, listened with full attention. He didn't interrupt, didn't question. His silence was more powerful than any promise. As she looked into his eyes, there was a flicker of something new, trust. It was the first time in a long while she didn't feel invisible. And in that moment, the human realized something too. Her story was not just about survival. It was about dignity, hope, and the chance to stand again. What he didn't know was that by giving her a place beside him, he was stepping into a path that would change both their lives forever. The days passed quietly, but something unspoken began to grow between them. She no longer walked behind him with her head lowered. Now she walked at his side, though still a little unsure, as if she was learning what it meant to be seen as an equal. The other aliens whispered more than ever, calling her names, mocking her presence. But she didn't flinch this time. Whenever their eyes met hers, she simply turned toward the human, as though his presence alone gave her strength. One evening, the skies glowed with strange colors, and the camp was alive with restless movement. It was then she shared the truth she had never told anyone else. She revealed the small piece of cloth she always kept hidden under her clothes, a fragment of her past. It was marked with symbols from her family, a family she had lost long ago. No one else cared to listen, but to the human, every word felt heavy with meaning. He saw not just a broken soul, but someone carrying an entire world of pain and hope inside her. For the first time, her voice did not tremble. She spoke of dreams she once had, to be accepted, to belong, to build something of her own. As the firelight touched her face, it became clear that she was no longer just a stranger seeking shelter. She was becoming something more, someone who could shape the future. If only one person believed in her. And the human realized then, he was not just protecting her, He was standing at the edge of a bond that neither of them had expected. A bond that could rewrite both of their destinies. The morning was calm, but there was something in the air that neither of them could ignore. The camp was busier than usual, and eyes followed them with a strange mixture of curiosity and unease. She walked closer than before, her hand brushing against his as if by accident. Yet she didn't move away. The human noticed the quiet strength in her now. She no longer looked like someone waiting to disappear. She looked like someone stepping into her own place in the world. That evening, when the stars lit the sky, she asked him why he had done it, why he had chosen to stand by her when everyone else turned away. His answer was simple, almost too simple, but it made her eyes shine in a way he had never seen before. He told her that no one deserved to be treated as if they were less, and that he had only done what felt right. For her, those words carried more weight than 1,000 promises, because she had never been spoken to with such honesty. She confessed something, then something she had been holding in her heart. She said she had once believed her story would end in silence, forgotten by all. But now, with him beside her, she felt for the first time that her life had meaning again. Her voice trembled not with fear, but with hope. And when he placed his hand gently over hers, she did not pull away. The others still whispered, but it no longer mattered. Where once there was shame and loneliness, there was now a quiet bond stronger than any wall built by suspicion. Together, they began to imagine a tomorrow different from yesterday. A tomorrow not written by the cruelty of others, but by the choice they had made to stand side by side. And in that moment, under the endless sky, it became clear that what had started as an act of kindness had grown into something. Neither of them could have foreseen a story of trust, of belonging, and of hearts finding their way home.